It's 9:04 a.m. on January 9th, 2023. We have Lonzo, Connie, myself, Hannah. Sorry. And Julie here and Bennett on Zoom. And we will call them the meeting to order. Is there any public comment?
I'm going to mention here, just because I wasn't sure if Chris was attending or not, but Chris
Okay.
Stanton has resigned from the
Okay.
DEC. So that does open up a space.
Okay.
And because council approved changes to the code last month, we actually are able to have the two previous applicants who are business owners in Estacada qualify.
Oh, good.
So if you're
Good.
interested, council can look at their applications again this month. And that was Juan and Ivan. They own Bobo Blastic and Kellen's
Kellen's
Dogs, and
Dogs.
I think a couple others.
Good, good.
Awesome. Good. Quick question about, are we going to open up applications again just for more people, or do we have to go? Not have
If they're
to,
interested in serving, then we wouldn't have to open up the application again because they
Okay.
qualify and we already have
Okay.
their info.
Do we know if Shane's going to call in?
Shane is in a
Mm-mm.
work meeting this morning and unable
Not
to
today.
attend.
Okay. All right. So is there any public comment? Don't think so.
There's nobody here at City Hall and nobody on Zoom.
Okay. So were we all able to look at last meeting's minutes? Review the minutes and stuff? Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, then I will make a motion to adopt the minutes as written.
I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So what do we have first? So we're going to discuss the Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grant. And if we want to move forward with that, should we talk about kind of where we stand with the grants and pushing off
Yes.
meetings? Is that kind of all right here?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So we have this as an item to remember to bring it up. If you remember past meeting, there was, well, this wasn't a motion, but I said, well, a motion to move forward with the grant, but then a suggestion after that, if we did receive a grant, then it would probably postpone your meeting with council, right? Because then we would be obviously still part of the Main Street program and applying for this grant. So I think because of holidays and things, it took a while for us to hear back from some of the downtown businesses and organizations that might be interested in applying, but we have heard back from a few who are interested. And so speaking with Bennett and Hannah, it made sense that we probably extend accepting their information up until at least the end of this month, because the application's already open. Deadline is sometime in March. They haven't determined yet, they being Oregon Main Street. So if that is all right with the commission, then we'll move forward and again, accept all this information up through the end of January.
Okay.
But just so you know, order of events and how that affects
So we
things
did
moving
get some
forward.
applicants. That's good.
Mhm.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, haven't received like solidified information from anyone yet, but people saying that they are interested in wanting to get the
Great.
information in.
Cool. So we don't have to make a motion or anything to extend that. That's just up to you.
I don't think so, because the past motion was just about that you'll move forward with the grant if people are interested, right?
Sure.
So this was more informational of how it will affect, the domino effect essentially of putting it off. Is that correct, Bennett? Or is there anything you want to add to that?
You're muted.
You're
Bennett.
muted.
There you go.
I don't have anything to say about that. I want to talk a little bit about this idea of bundling. So when you get to that point, then let me know.
Yeah, well, I mean, there aren't any sub points. So if you want to mention that, what Bennett is referring to, since Elena has applied in the past and she's more familiar with the grant, I included her in the conversation as well. And because the grant is up to $200,000, let's say there are multiple people interested in applying, but an individual doesn't have 200,000 that they need. So there's the possibility that we would apply on behalf of multiple folks or projects that would maybe add up to that amount. So the thing is this grant, and I can share the link and stuff. I think some of you, including Lonzo, have probably received it as business owner. But the grant is reimbursable. So everyone has to have their own resources upfront to actually do the projects. There's only a maximum, I believe, $20,000 that would be given to start off the grant. And then there's also a 30% match. Does not have to be monetary, but it is in kind or volunteer time, for example. So again, it's very clear for everyone applying that they do have to have their own resources to actually do this project, but that the grant would be supportive of that. So bundling is more just to see who are the applicants, how much are they asking for, and is it possible to be applying on behalf of multiple people? Another thing is you will all be seeing whoever is interested. So that's why I'm letting you know too that we're accepting until the end of the month, because it would be your February meeting that you would be looking at everyone's information and can decide which projects we will apply for.
So my concern had to do with, so again, what she said is that it's reimbursable. So if you applied for $50,000, you have to be able to lay your hands on $50,000 cash. Plus there's a requirement of it. Was it 30%, Mara?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to come up with 30% match. So if you applied for $100,000 as an example, you'd need to be able to lay your hands on, you'd need to be able to match up to at least $30,000. So that's $130,000. You'd need to be able to lay your hands on $130,000, and then the granting authority would reimburse you for $100,000 of it. Is anything that I said inaccurate, Mara?
I mean, if you're just making up numbers, I guess it doesn't have to be
I am making up
100,000.
numbers. Yeah, I'm just saying that's what, so whatever it is that somebody applies for, then they need to, that amount of money plus 30%, they need to be able to come up with that cash to pay for the project. So my concern was two different things. Thing number one was that if we bundled it and one of the players wasn't able to actually come up with that money, then everybody in that bundle would lose out. Concern number two was, so suppose we select someone that then is unable, and they are actually receive the grant, and they're unable to come up with whatever the financial obligation is when push comes to shove, then we, again, Estacada loses out. And so what I said is, I think part of our process should be that we require the applicants to show us that they have that kind of cash that they can lay their hands on, be it via credit cards or bank account or bank loan or whatever it is. But I would hate to have us lose out on it after doing so much work, because staff is going to have to pull over and do quite a bit of work to apply for this, and then have the applicant not be able to come up with the money. So I understand fully what Mara said, which is they have that knowledge, but the knowledge of it and actually being able to lay your hands on that cash are two different things.
So anybody applying would be in the same exact position. And my
Right.
issue is requiring more than the program requires for applicants to be proving or to be submitting. So I would say, no, we should not be requiring more than Oregon Main Street is requiring of applicants. Again, this is something that is on the responsibility of everyone who's applying. Every single person is in this position, that they will have to have those resources and,
Understood. But the reason that I disagree with you on that, in terms of only requiring somebody to say, yeah, I have the financial resources. The reason is that Main Street, what they do is, if applicant one falls by off the edge, then they just go to applicant number two. In our case, it completely eliminates Estacada's ability to get that resource.
So I have a question. So going for the grant, do you have to have cash? Like, I mean, so, okay, you can put 30% down, but what about if you're just getting a construction loan? I mean, does that work, right? You don't have to have cash,
Yes, I would
correct?
encourage everybody
Because you're getting
to-
reimbursed. So, yeah, we
Right.
got a construction loan, cool. We
Right.
got 30%. Let's do it.
Yeah, the
they reimburse
resources
you.
can look, exactly. The
mean-
resources can look differently. I'm not going to be asking for people's bank statements or that kind of financial information. So I would really encourage you all, and I can share the link with you as well if you haven't gone on the Oregon Main Street website of the requirements for the grant. It's very clear what needs to happen, what everyone is required to have. So yes, I don't think it's appropriate to be asking for that kind of information from applicants.
Any other comments?
How crazy would it look for a government agency to ask for your bank statement?
Exactly.
Can people talk
Say
into
that in
the
the mic,
microphone
please.
so I can hear?
Yeah, can you say that in the mic,
Oh,
please?
sorry, I said, how crazy would it look like for a government agency to ask for personal bank statements?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think that Bennett's concern is good to consider, and you could ask, I mean, I don't know if that's one of the questions is, do you have the capacity? This is a reimbursement loan. Do you have the capacity and how would you fund that? And they could say cash or the construction loan or whatever. And then that would be sufficient. And once the grant is awarded, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Bennett, but I think if I understand that right, then once the grant is awarded, people start doing the work and they get reimbursed. If somebody drops out at that point, it wouldn't disqualify everybody. It would just mean that we wouldn't realize, we only get, there's only reimbursement for the amount of work that gets done.
I think you would be correct in that, Melanie.
Okay.
And, oh, I just lost it. Shoot. Sorry. So we will be doing, or I don't know, lost it. So any more comments on that? No?
So were there any changes that you needed to make to that process? Or
Yeah, I
Bennett?
think Bennett is asked, right, is presenting whether or not you would make a decision on
So
this
here's the
particular
thing.
detail.
If what you're saying is I think what we have to do first is we have to get all the applicants. Then we have to make a decision whether or not bundling or whether or not we're going to encourage them to bundle, or whether or not, because honestly, they shouldn't have to bundle if they don't want to. And if they don't want to bundle, then we have to look at, all the applicants or a group of applicants or however we look at it and select one of them to present to the Main Street program. And if what you're saying to me is that, we can remind them and ask them if they have that resource available, either in a loan or in cash or whatever, because apparently the match can be an in-kind, which I can't imagine what that is, but it is possible. Then if what the city is saying is we won't do anything beyond that, then that's fine. I just want my concerns because there's a risk involved in it.
Yeah. And I know when you send in your proposal, you have to sign that you can do it. So I think that it's hard to say, well, do we trust you? Or, I mean, we have to go by people's words that they're signing it and then they can provide the 30%.
Yes, and it was presented to them too, that these are required. As if you can say yes to all these things, then please send your information and say you're interested in applying.
Is there any fines for if somebody turns in an application, they get it accepted, and then they can't come up with the money?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have an example. I'd have to ask like Sherry, probably from Oregon and Main Street, if that's ever happened. I don't think there are fines. That's not generally how grants work, but here's Elena.
Is that on?
Elena's right here, about to speak.
I think you have to
Oh,
turn that on. I don't know how to turn it on.
I think
Or one of these.
microphone's right here.
There wouldn't be any.
There's no
penalty.
fines.
Yeah.
There's no fines. You just don't get the money.
And that's a reflection more on the applicant than I
Sure.
think it is on us.
For sure.
Right.
How
Or-
embarrassing would it be to apply for this, get it, and then you can't come up with the money and then you've hindered other people to get it?
Mhm,
I
Right.
think that alone would, be paralyzing.
Yeah,
especially for me.
irresponsible. And I think that's where the concern is if somebody did that and then it's like, well, that's a bummer. These 3 people missed out. But
I do want to say too, though, and what we did when we did it with Mossy Rock is part of the match came from URA grant funding. And so
Mm.
that's another option for someone who necessarily wouldn't have the cash flow, like the food bank, if they
Okay.
wanted to apply, is they can ask for URA grant funding, and that could be part of the match. So the match doesn't necessarily have to come from the applicant if they can apply, especially for something like if it's a small grant.
Mhm.
Because that's an internal, we don't have to take that before the URA board. Staff can make the decision to do that small grant funding.
this has to be something.
Mhm.
Thank you for that knowledge.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So move forward. Is that what we need to?
I think what we need is a motion to go ahead and extend our deadline until whatever date.
Do we have a date?
For the proposals, it would be before our next meeting.
Yeah.
Right,
So
it's
pretty much
January-
end
or-
of this month so that it can be, ready for your
Uh,
next meeting.
February 6th. We'll be meeting. So do we need, I don't think we need to make a motion for that, or did I already ask you that? It's
Well,
just,
Bennett
that's
is
just-
saying that you should, so
oh, okay.
if somebody'd like to.
I'll make a motion to extend the proposal applicants for the Main Street revitalization grant to the end of January.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, well, that's great. And awesome. And Mara, that's you and your emails and just,
Yes, yeah,
sending out
I'll
with-
be receiving the information and then, of course, have it ready for you all to review it at your next meeting.
okay, awesome.
Would it be possible for you to send those to us as they come in so we have more time to look them over?
Possibly, I think that depends on how they come in. If they're very last minute, I think it makes sense to collect them all and just present them all at once at the
Great.
meeting. But if they are coming in at a reasonable time, I could, excuse me, send it to the whole commission for you to look at.
Great idea.
Okay. And for the record, nobody has sent in an actual proposal.
At this time, I don't
Okay,
have an
just
official
interest.
proposal.
Okay. All right. So while before we move on, Bennett, do you want to go over the pros and cons? Or not go over, but start for the OMS, just being a part of the program or? 'Cause
So-
since we're going for this grant, let's
Yeah,
say
I think we
get
might as well
people-
go ahead and delay that.
Okay, because I know I'm gonna send in my proposal.
Right, yeah,
So,
and,
I know there's one person and then great if we get the others.
Yeah.
So personally, I can say, I know we will be going for a grant. So, let's stay in the Main Street program for, another year, I guess, essentially, is what we're wondering. So do you want to push off the pros and cons talk?
so here's what I'd like to do. I would personally like for us to wait to see whether or not we get that grant.
Okay,
And so if we don't get the grant, then I think we go ahead and move forward with that discussion.
okay. And I think that's, I found out in May, I believe, last year. I think
Mhm.
we applied in March and then May.
Sure.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll move on to review the Main Street improvements. I
So we have
to-
Melanie here,
Okay,
city manager.
to do a little spiel?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I just wanted to touch base one more time with you. Our engineer is coming to the Urban Renewal Board meeting this evening at 5:30 and presenting some options for the board to make any final, to make like a final recommendation, so he could do a final drawing. And I know we've had at the What's Up and National Night Out and a variety of ways that, and the surveys online and that you could put in comments about the design for Main Street. And I know that the business owners here have all had experience with Broadway specifically, but for Main Street, what we're looking to do is underground the power, potentially make it, it would be a benefit to pedestrians, safer crossings. There could be a realignment of parking. You could make it like the design shows with the pavers and make it kind of follow the design pattern of Broadway. It's still going to be, it's the main through street. So it's not going to be exactly like Broadway. It's going to have wider lanes and that, but are there priorities that this committee would like to share about the design, things that you would like to see? I could share that this evening with or if somebody wants to come and share at 5:30, you're welcome to, or I could just carry any recommendations forward that you have.
I've mentioned to you and also, I think, Paul Strobel, the only concern I have is that it get done by July 4th.
Okay.
That's the main route for the parade.
Okay.
And I would appreciate any incentives or,
Yes.
put the urgency on to get it done by July 4th. That'd
Of
be a
this year?
major effect on the parade.
Okay.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When we did Broadway, we started towards the end of January and it was opened up by before Memorial Day. So it felt like forever, I will say, but it was really just a few months. So, and this one, it just depends, there's sometimes it's hard to get materials or PGE's running behind, there's a lot of things that can slow it down, but thank you for noting the July 4th deadline being important. Either have it done or start after that, I guess. Yeah. Any other comments or preferences that the committee wants to share as the downtown commission or?
So I raised my hand. I have a couple of things, Melanie, having lived through the last one.
Okay.
So these don't have anything to do with design. So,
Okay.
so I'll try to go quickly. I'm sure the design's great. I haven't seen the picture, but I'm excited about it happening. There were a few things with the last one that were devastating. I mean, it cost us, net $10,000 a month while this thing was going on. And so what happened was we started in winter with the assumption that we could get it done in 4 months. That was the estimated time frame. And so we were doing it in winter, right? And so when it didn't even come close to 4 months, what we were told was that the weather was the inhibiting factor. Well, it's Oregon, right? And so there's going to be rain and all that kind of stuff. So I think that what you communicate to the businesses is really, really important in terms of how long it is that their businesses be impeded by the construction, and really factor in that there's going to be weather-related things that are going to slow it down. I mean, nothing ever happens on time in terms of construction. And if it does, I don't know if you're doing any sort of bonuses to them for accomplishing it earlier than anticipated, but it's going to be hard on these businesses, particularly the ones that have drive-through and no other access except for Main Street. So that's number one. Number two is, I don't know what you've communicated with the businesses. I'm sure you've been communicating with them a lot. But what we were told originally on Broadway was that we were going to do half of the street. And so cars could still go on the other side of the street. And then they were going to flip over and do the other half of the street. And then at some point they decided that it was going to save time and money, which money maybe, time absolutely not. But to do it all at once. And so we so they tore up the street and we basically lost all businesses, all business to, or all access to our business. You could park, 4 blocks away and walk in, but then you had to go over, pretty rough terrain to get there. And so it was extremely devastating financially to the businesses on Broadway. And so I think that the businesses need to be able to prepare for that and come up with some kind of, I don't know, game plan. And so your communication to them should, I'm hoping, has been, this is going to disrupt your business. We're going to make it as short as possible. Expect delays. And Melanie, are you guys going to do half of the street and then the other half, or are they going to be cut off altogether?
That's a good question. I don't know. And one thing we learned last time is don't make assumptions for how you want the contractor to do things until you get the contractor on board, because
Uh-huh.
then things completely change. So obviously, I think the preference is to not do a full street closure. That was incredibly painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we can, I don't know how that's going to work or not, but I mean, in other places, they don't shut down a whole street. They work on it in pieces. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll just have to push for that.
Because the gas station that's there, the hardware store has its own back entrance. And
Mhm.
so they kind of have it handled, but the restaurant, the gas station, all that kind of stuff, I think Paul Strobel, he'll be okay. But those other 2 businesses, really what somebody should be saying to them is anticipate a 50 to 70% drop in revenue during the entire time this project is going on.
Mhm. That's a good question right there, because like you mentioned, in winter time, things take longer, and our engineer has mentioned that too. But the concern is, I know that a lot of the downtown businesses do their best business in the summertime. And so is there do you guys have recommendations on for Main Street, about hitting it during summertime when it could go potentially faster, or doing it still during the winter time? Might take a little longer, but it's a less of a business.
I think you should ask them, because so if it were me, that was the thing that was making me just gripe it like crazy, was that when we first signed off on saying, yeah, do December, January, February, March, do that, and then have it finished by sometime in March, then when we're gearing back up in April and May, but really it wasn't even finished by Memorial Day. It was almost finished. And they did open up the street for that weekend. But that's why we lost so much money, is that we really carved out a huge, when our business was starting to actually, typically, historically, was starting to pick up, that just got, ground down to zero. And these businesses have to know that. If whatever your solution is for this, they have to know to be able to prepare financially for that.
Okay.
Can I also share, I did reach out, or I'm part of the Main Street Manager meetings that happen usually weekly on Thursday mornings. And so I did ask about what their experience is working with their businesses when they've had construction or any possible street closures. And so they had a lot of great ideas. Of course, their Main Street programs are also the ones working with the businesses and supporting them through this time. So I think it'd be helpful if you all as a commission would also want to provide that support for the businesses. But for example, thinking about how just the buildings themselves can be affected, right? Construction, things happen, things fly around. So what does that look like in terms of having that conversation with them about their windows and protecting windows? Somebody talked about how artists have even made nice coverings for the window. So it's not just, planks on the, on those, but also something aesthetic, or are there signs that can be created to, for the detours, right? So that people can still access the businesses, or that people can actually see which businesses are down the street if they can't actually go down there. So just some ideas of how they've offered support for their downtown businesses in these kinds of situations.
So I'm glad
Or
that
some
you brought up
ideas.
signage, because there eventually was signage during the Broadway closure down at on the highway saying these businesses are open, but the signs were very small, and it didn't offer any sort of tour information about how to get to them. And I don't have any problem with what you just said in terms of aesthetics and, protecting your building and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to emphasize over and over again that when you're talking about a person's means of making a living, and all of a sudden, if I walked up to anybody in this room and said, you know what, next month, you're going to make only 25% of what you're used to making, that would be a huge impact on anybody. So next month, your salary is going to be cut by 75%. What are you going to do? And so the sooner you can get that message to them, and they're going to complain, it's going to be hard.
Okay. Any other comments or ideas
Is
on
it,
design or things like the process?
is it just power being put underground, or is water mains being replaced? Or what construction is actually happening?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any water or sewer in the street.
Mhm.
It goes in the alley. So the electrical lines would go underground.
Mhm.
And then redoing sidewalks, if there's any portions of the sidewalks that are really recent that could be saved that fit with the design, we'd keep those. But have you noticed that there's a lot of clay under the ground? And so we have like
Sure.
the lanes sink and we get these big divots. So it's probably going to be putting a lot of gravel or, rock, a rock base under there to prevent that. So sidewalks, streets, realigning power, pedestrian level street lighting like it has on Main Street, because there won't be the big overhead street lights because it's all underground. And so new street lights, benches, trees, or some decorative like things like that. So any other
And when will a contractor be chosen? to do this?
we are aiming, let's see, right now, if we get the final design, I think that the engineering could be done by March and we'd go out. So this is pushing us towards summer, which makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah, it would be by the time we go to bid, it would be March. So probably April by the time we have a contractor on. So I appreciate the comment about asking the businesses going through the summer. Maybe we should wait till fall to kick it off, do it September, October, November. That might be better I don't know, but we're getting close to being able to go out to bid, but we're not there yet. So we don't have it's still malleable.
So this is going to be moving forward,
Yes,
right?
it's
Like
going,
it's happening.
Yep, it's
Designs
happening.
can change, things can change, but like it's happening and.
Yep,
doing
it's
it.
happening. It's just how much change
Yep.
do people
When,
want on
why,
the
or
street?
When, what?
Mhm,
okay.
and when it happens. Yeah.
Um,
And Julie, or
yep, go.
I don't know if my thing's on. Is there street parking, right? There's gonna be street parking?
that's one of the options right now. There could be, like right now, there's the parallel parking there. If you want to make a recommendation for angle parking, it only adds, I think, about 5 to 7 spaces on the
Mhm.
street.
Mhm.
Versus which way? I'm sorry, which? gives you
If
more?
if we add angle parking, because of like on
Broadway.
Broadway, there's not many driveways. On Main Street, there's a lot of driveways. So really the only place we could put the angle parking would be up closer to the grocery store and
Right.
the hardware store. If we closed off one of the entrances into the hardware store, we could add some on there, but then our engineer said that he could work with the owner of Ace to say, how could this be realigned, and we could help them do that. But I don't know if that's something that they would be open to or not. And I should just, and I don't want Stephen to worry about that.
Mhm.
If that, we're just doing it. That's an option. If he would like to do it, we could look at that, and there could be angle parking there otherwise the initial plan was to put angle parking on is that the west side of the street in front of the residential places there.
Mhm.
But then there was a concern voice, well, you're coming down the hill and it is hard coming down the hill on Broadway. And if you park in front of the pharmacy to try to back out, it's a little tricky. But it could be done. So it just depends on, I mean, do you want them to find a way to put angle parking in, or do you want it to stay parallel?
Right. There's just, I just know in front of the shop, there's just, issues. We've got the longer trucks and you've got the smaller cars kind of backing out. And there's been quite a few accidents of people trying to back out and driving on Broadway. So I was just curious, as the town grows, we will need parking, but I was just curious on how that was, because I know it is very limited, but yeah, so,
Yeah.
so it's not determined yet.
It is not determined yet. There's option that could go
Okay.
both ways, and the board
Okay.
will hopefully decide tonight which is the preferred way.
Mhm.
But so you're saying, if I hear you right, additional parking would be great, but the angle in parking is challenging with,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I would encourage them to do angle or anything they have to maximize the number of parking spaces.
Yeah.
Do we
I-
know how wide Broadway is? Because that says 20. Is that 20 feet for the road?
Yeah, the road over there is planned to be 20.
Is that
Broadway
15
is,
or-
it's 13.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
So
this would
that
be
extra bit
significantly
more.
larger. 'Cause
Yeah,
I know that's a huge concern from a lot of people. I haven't done as much research as I probably can, but that's one of the things I've heard is just,
even if we
the big
did the
cars.
angle, yeah, if we did angle
Mm.
parking, it would push it down to, I think 17 feet in the section of road that is angled parking. But we also want to keep, you have to have 10 feet of sidewalk to do the sidewalk service.
Mm.
And so we don't really want to, narrow the sidewalks. The sidewalks on Broadway, I believe, are 12 feet.
Mhm.
But these are 10,
10.
and that's
20.
what's, yeah, 10.
Well, that's good.
So
Do-
10, 10 and 20, that's 40, 50, 60, and then 78. Yeah. So it leaves room for the parallel parking.
Mhm.
There wouldn't be separate bike lanes. They'd be like sharrows, or,
Mhm.
people would share the lanes.
Sure.
And then, but if we did do the angle parking, it would narrow the lane slightly, but it still won't be like Broadway is.
Significantly
Mhm.
larger than Broadway though, 13 to
Mhm.
17.
Yeah.
And then, but it's 20 right now. It'll lower if we do angle, but we'll
Mhm.
add more spaces.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. Do you guys want to make a group decision on
Mm.
that, or?
As
Do-
far as parking.
Just
what we
opinions or-
Parking, I think we definitely need to utilize the space and have as much parking, but since the street is a little bit wider, maybe that'll make, a bit of difference.
Mhm.
I'm just, there's driveways, so, coming out and being able to see past, so
Right.
there's,
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah. Cause on Broadway, you don't have that. You have cars at the intersection. I don't want to complain about that. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, you have cars pulling out at the intersection, but the parking is way back, from the corners. And
Mhm.
so here, if you have driveways where people are pulling out,
Mhm.
okay, so I'll write that caution, maximize parking,
Good concern.
but consider
But also
pulling
that-
out or backing
that,
out.
but also people drive through here a little bit too fast than I like to see also, so,
Mhm.
Which
Um,
that'll totally change it, I think.
yeah.
This change
Mhm.
will make it more like a Broadway. I mean, because you can't blow down Broadway.
No. mm-mm.
I mean,
Even though I've
This-
seen it happen a few
oh,
times.
yeah, of course. But I mean, we can't base this thing off people who don't follow the rules, but
Yeah.
So the
Mm.
bid's gonna go out to March.
Probably because after the Urban Renewal Board makes a final decision on design, which hopefully will happen tonight, they can still make minor tweaks to it,
Sure.
but we want to get it nailed down. So if the engineering's done by March, it can get put out to bid. And so by April, so it would put it starting in May.
Is there a way that we can push off the starting date till winter.
Or at least after July 4th.
Yeah.
At least after July.
Yeah.
4th. Yeah, let me ask that. So the recommendation would be to not do construction in the middle of summertime.
Correct.
No way.
I
Do-
mean, we have such late summers that, I
Or
mean, they
one-
could build until October. you
Right,
know,
so do
because-
September,
yeah.
kick it off at the end of August, May, or do September, October,
Mhm.
wrap it up in
Yeah.
November.
And we've
Okay.
been waiting so long for this, highway to open up and have the
Mm.
tourism that I just don't
Yeah.
want to have that
Another-
street. If people aren't familiar with the area, they're automatic, they're gonna automatically turn,
Mhm.
onto Main Street. So, if the street closure does happen, just having clear signs of,
Mhm.
a detour of people, how they can navigate around town with the closure.
Mhm. Okay, this is really helpful. So I thank you guys for taking the time. Connie, were you gonna say something?
Well, no, I really, I encourage us to go past summer.
Okay.
You know, with supply chain issues and everything else, like
Yeah.
you say, construction's never on time. If you're
Mhm.
starting in May, I don't see how it could
Mm-mm.
be done by July 4th.
No
Right,
way.
And if we do an Oktoberfest, that's going to be in
Yeah.
September. It's going to be on Broadway, so it's not going to be affected by Main Street.
okay,
I would go for after summer.
okay.
Yeah.
So what I've got here, I've got either be done before July 4th or don't start till after. Communication to businesses about the timeline for construction is critical. How long will they be impacted? And let them know it will be an impact to them financially. Work with the contractor for the deadlines to be met. There's usually they get a penalty if they go over, but it's usually pretty minimal, but we need to make sure that that is strong. Don't allow for a full street closure if possible. Ask businesses for when it's best to do the work, sounds like this recommendation would be head towards fall, since we're getting late into the year. It's January, but we're getting late into the year. Signage for businesses open and good detour signs are critical. Maximize the parking, but consider people pulling out from driveways or backing out from the parking spaces is challenging. And then recommend not doing it during the summer. Okay,
Well, that just,
anything else?
especially if the meetings tonight, that just pushing it off just seems a no-brainer
Mhm,
to allow these businesses to prepare. I mean,
mhm.
so tight right now.
So we can start
That
getting,
doesn't make sense. So the timeline isn't adding up, but hopefully
Right.
you can relay that tonight or.
Mhm. I appreciate that because the time, my original plan was like have the engineering done now, go out to
Mhm.
bid at the end of January,
Yeah.
be ready to start in March, do March, April, May.
Yeah.
But it's just taking longer.
Yeah,
So,
And
okay,
that's just, and to do it right too. I mean, we
Mhm.
don't want to push something and make
right.
mistakes, and that's when mistakes happen.
Yep. Okay. I appreciate, thanks Bennett, and thank you to all of
And
you for these.
the parking, did we kind of agree that we would like? I know
Yeah, what is
you
that?
wanted parallel, but are you, I mean, I know we don't decide something, but
I just wanted to utilize the space.
so
having,
diagonal, sideways,
Angle.
Angled.
Yeah,
So angle,
you get more spaces out of the
yeah,
angle.
seven
Yes.
more.
so angle is good, but
But it
also
takes away the
consider
road.
how people would pull out from
Mhm.
driveways and,
Mhm.
and things like that. Okay.
And you said something about street lights. There is no street lights, or is it crossing, or what did you say?
Yeah, so there's,
a-
so that right now, the only street lights out there are like on the utility poles. They're actually street lights lighting up the street. So the proposed lighting would be more like Broadway where they're in the sidewalks, they're pedestrian level.
okay.
So they light the sidewalk and the street.
Got it.
And then, yeah, that would be,
Okay.
and then trees where we could do more of the
Yeah.
little lights and. yeah.
And, sorry, Connie, one more. Is there, because right now there's no stop signs, right? Or there's
Correct.
One, right? None.
There's no, it's just a two-way
Kind of
stop
picture
at Fourth and a two-way stop at
Okay.
Third.
And are there going to be added stop signs, or is it just?
That's one of there's some
Okay.
people recommending that
Okay.
we make that a four-way stop and,
Because people crossing this way, right?
mhm.
Would there be a crosswalk for?
Yeah, crosswalks, you guys want,
Sorry.
have ideas on crosswalks or? Connie?
That's kind
Just
of
on the-
my comment. You know, up at the high school, we have the flashing.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see that considered for the crosswalk right here at the corner of Third, because people
Okay.
don't seem to notice anybody standing on the edge wanting to cross.
Mhm.
But if they have the button they can push, that will illuminate a flash of some kind.
Okay, is that agreeable for everyone? The flashing crosswalk signs?
I mean, to me, you mean over there right on where.
Right, right corner of Ace Hardware.
Yes, because I
Yeah.
see a lot of people from 300 Main
Yeah.
trying to cross.
Okay.
the
And with
street,
300
people
Main
won't
right
stop.
there, you know, people.
Okay,
I'm
so they're
charging
at,
up Main
Third and
Street.
then also at Fourth, the flashy thing maybe, or
Do we have to pay for the electricity to have those signs? Is that
usually they're
or
solar.
solar?
That we've,
Okay.
well, we've been
Yeah.
putting in solar,
Yeah.
since we're doing the whole, I don't know that there'd be. I don't know how the electricity, since we're
Mhm.
doing a whole project, we could probably make them like wired, hardwired. But
Yeah.
typically we've done the solar, since we're installing after the fact, but it wouldn't be, it'd be minimal if it was electrical.
Okay.
Do you think there will be ever a point where they're going to be put a four-way stop right there at that little? That's what I, yeah. 'cause
Right now,
we're-
there's nothing over there
Right.
And Broadway has stop signs,
Yeah.
four-way stops at
in
every
the
intersection.
circle.
I would,
Yeah.
I would think that we should make it uniform, that it's all the same.
It would control traffic a little bit and it would be
Okay.
a little bit safer for people if we have the Ingle parking or, you know, if they have a.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know,
Has
that's-
that been a discussion at all, Melanie?
Yeah,
I mean,
It has
okay,
to have
'cause
a
it
four-way
seems a little-
stop. I know, I'm
it
trying
seems
not to
weird
like
not to
feed
have
you
it-
like, this is what everybody else is
Yeah.
saying.
Mhm.
Come up with our own. see if we
Yeah,
match it.
but a four-way stop is one of the recommendations, and we do have a traffic engineer that they could look into that and see if that's, you know, if there's any reason not to do it, but if that's an idea that you'd like to be considered, we could do that.
Yeah.
Especially with the
Yeah.
fire station right here and them going
Mhm.
on calls. It just makes it easier for the ambulances, fire trucks to go through to get to their calls.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it just makes sense because if we're sizing down a little bit
Mhm.
and we're trying to make this, you know, a duplicate of Broadway
Mhm.
in a way,
Mhm.
more walker friendly, or
Mhm.
is it more, or are we just trying to make it more pretty? Or accessible? I mean, we're adding, because we have sidewalks,
Mhm.
right, all the way
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Some of
We got
those-
a road, we just want to add parking.
Mhm.
But I think as more businesses come in, I think it would make sense to have some sort of, it's just weird
Yeah.
for stop sign. I mean, there's
We
gotta
just
be
want
stop
this
sign or
traffic to
something.
slow down a little bit.
Mhm.
instead of
How do you
just
cross the
flying
street? You just
through.
go?
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, there's one crosswalk there.
yeah, I guess there is.
Yeah.
But every morning
Something
I
to think
walk
about.
from my business to go get coffee, and it's
Mhm.
so delightful walking down on the sidewalks on Broadway.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
It's
I'm very
amazing.
excited for Main Street to have the same sidewalks.
Mhm.
It's very, very pleasant.
Mhm.
Great. Yeah, it will make it, to answer your question, it is all of those, all of the above. It's to make it look better.
Yeah.
And hopefully as, you know, more business friendly and pedestrian oriented businesses also where people could not just drive to one parking lot, do their stuff and then drive to another parking
Mhm.
lot. But also for pedestrian safety, for slowing traffic,
Mhm.
for, but still allowing, you know, ease of traffic. We don't want people coming in with their horse trailers or whatever and feeling like, I don't even belong here anymore
Right.
because they can't make the
Same.
corners. So still have that welcoming but charming. Charming was one
Mhm.
of the words that the Traffic and Public Safety Committee used, that the elements that are going in will make it, it'll be more charming like Broadway is, but still have the good traffic flow, but hopefully slowing traffic and making
Mhm.
it safer, easier to cross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And connect the main and Broadway, I think is cool. And just
Mhm.
extend our, you know, walking,
Broaden out
you know,
the
we can go over
downtown.
here and, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so finish flashing crosswalks at Third and consider a four-way stop at Fourth to slow traffic going through the area.
Yeah.
Okay,
Agree.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
the
you, Melanie.
Yeah,
opportunity.
thank you, everybody.
Good luck. I know,
Right.
a hard task. A lot of
Okay.
people, a lot of opinion.
Please,
Yeah.
please, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, I'll work on that one.
Yeah.
All right, I'll bid you guys farewell for.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. All right. So next up is discussing newspaper articles for January. Bennett, do you have any input on this? Or where we're at, or?
Well, do you guys have any ideas? Because my fallback idea is to write some history stuff.
Yeah.
And here's another question. Has anybody seen any of our articles in the newspaper?
In the past, yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the last month or so.
No, not the last month, I don't think.
So there would have been one that was focused on shopping locally. And I edited that to take out all the businesses that were listed. I had an interesting discussion with the editor of the paper. And so what I started out with was one of the reporters, and she sent me to the editor. His name, I can't remember, it's Sam or something like that. Anyway, he kind of blew up on me and said, I can't believe you would send me an article that basically is promoting a bunch of businesses without paying us to
Oh, you're
advertise.
kidding. Oh,
No.
my word.
And I said, well, as a matter of fact, in our budget for this year, we have some newspaper advertising budgeted. And then I actually never heard back from him, but I know that they had them. I know they paid attention to him. I think what we're going to do is send them to these two people in the future because they'll respond to me. But I think a lot of this stuff that we've been sending them has just been going into a pile and not getting anywhere, which is why I wanted to know. One of them was talked about the tree lighting and as a past event. And the other one was be sure and shop local. And nobody gets the newspaper there, right?
I do.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
So did you see either of those, Connie?
I think I saw just the tree lighting in the, what's going on around town. And then the shop local, I think I sent you a picture of what I did see, and that was just listing some of the businesses and having
Oh,
a Christmas decoration around them.
yeah, okay, maybe they kept it in there. So I didn't get that email. And but it sounds like they did put some of them in, so yay.
Well, but it was just mainly, it didn't have any commentary about it. It was just, business advertising.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it was Dick's Logging and.
Oh,
can't
that
remember
was
what
not
else.
us. That was not us.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Well, I'll search around. I'll see if I can find it now on their online stuff. But in any case, if nobody has any ideas about what you'd like me to write about this month, then I'll just go to some historical stuff.
Okay.
Okay. And if I think of it.
any
anything, we'll
ideas?
email.
Ideas for the history? For the
No,
article?
just for the
Just
newspaper,
anything.
our
for the
newspaper
newspaper, yeah.
submission.
In general. Do we want to do like a Happy New Year kind of what's coming up,
Well,
Or is
or
that-
maybe,
what we're
the
planning, 4th of July?
Downtown
stuff?
Estacada Commission is looking forward to an exciting year of putting on some events, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you've got words that nobody else has that can make it look really good.
Okay.
Just
I
maybe
can do
kind of
that.
exposing
Maybe
people
just-
to the
yeah.
Downtown Estacada Commission. This is what we do. We're looking forward to doing some events this year. New
Mhm.
people in town volunteer, that kind of thing.
And are we locked on the Oktoberfest?
We're going to discuss that. I
Mhm.
sure
Okay.
hope so.
Yep,
Okay,
I think
okay.
we are, yeah. We gotta
Well,
make a
then I'll wait
subcommittee.
for that discussion and I'll talk about it then.
Mhm.
I'll use that as a newspaper article.
Yeah.
And Lonzo, I'm thinking the newspaper is probably going to run an article on you. So that's, yeah.
Yes, yep, that's why we're covered, so I don't want to,
Yeah,
Got it.
let's have somebody else in the,
Right.
in the article and everything.
yeah.
And somebody help me out. So Estacada New, is that Pamplin or what's
Yeah.
Pamplin? Okay,
It is pamphlet.
okay, because I met the, I forgot her, MK. the other day.
Oh,
So she
yeah.
came into,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. All right, yeah, so that's my only suggestion is this maybe a new year article,
Okay,
kind of just discussing what's coming up and
sure, sounds good.
And this is
I'll
what
run
we
it by
are.
you guys before I give it to Mara.
okay. Awesome. And then social media posts is next. So I have a question, Mara, for posts on Instagram, when you send out emails to ask people if they want anything posted and you get stuff back, do you take that, you just post those, right? Or do you need me to say, yes, post that? Like, so Timbertown Fitness, if Melissa emails you, her 0% or whatever, for January, you get that sent to you. Do you make the post and post it? Or are you waiting for me to give you the okay?
Oh, I don't have.
unless I have
that's Up
something.
to you, right? I don't have to have the okay to
Right.
post it.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, Melanie's gone now, but we did talk about this too, and kind of similarly with the newspaper, although that's more like a, obviously their policies in
Mhm.
terms of they don't do free advertisement. But we also want to be careful because again, as Lonzo mentioned, we're a government entity, so
Mhm.
we can't just be promoting different businesses and their sales either in that kind of way, because it does look like we are promoting only certain businesses or perhaps have certain preferences, even though, yes, reality is it's based off of who sends us
gives-
the material, but
Okay.
we need
Mhm.
to be careful with that moving forward with our content.
I have a question.
So, so what
go ahead,
are
Ben.
you saying?
Lonzo was
Go ahead.
starting to speak.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. So if I want a post from the DEC for Facebook or Instagram
Mhm.
or whatever, I make a graphic and then I say, this is what I want for the heading. And then I make the graphic and then I send it to you and then you post it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I had no idea how that worked.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And the graphics really only required so we could do Instagram, right?
Mhm.
Facebook
Mhm.
doesn't have to have a picture, but obviously Instagram
Yes.
does. So that's why, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I can send you a picture, a graphic. So we're gonna do a screening of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette that's coming out on like the 23rd or something. So
Okay.
I can make a graphic for that and then say, hey, Time Travelers is doing a screening
Mhm.
on this day, ladies are drinking, whatever.
Yeah.
So that I think we're revealing our wines. too.
Okay, yeah.
So I can give that post to you, send it out to Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, yeah. And with
Okay.
this subcommittee, whatever you
Mhm.
create,
Mhm.
same thing.
Yeah.
Spoken with Hannah about it too, just making sure that you're giving me the content as well. Otherwise, I'll make up something to write in there, right?
Yes.
But so yes, if you want something specific, then you'll want to provide all of that.
Okay. And Julie Colton is our media person.
Okay.
And so she will be linking up with you
Yeah, that's fine.
for that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome.
Cool. Yeah, so that was kind of my only question is um, when you receive things, are you kind of waiting for our subcommittee to, yeah, let's post this, or is it just,
Oh, my understanding was that, you all
If you
tell
get
me what
something.
it is we
Yeah.
want to receive, right? Like the request that goes out
Mhm.
to businesses
Yeah.
and things. And then whatever I receive, I'm able to move forward and
awesome?
yeah.
Okay.
because
And
it's
then-
a timing thing, right?
Totally.
How long does it take for everyone to reply and
Mhm.
approve? And you're
Absolutely.
not gonna you can't do a quorum
Yep.
to
Yeah.
make the official decision and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. So
Totally.
if it's okay with you, and obviously,
Yeah.
again, right, we're government entity, we have to make the judgment calls if
Mhm.
for whatever reason we
Yeah.
receive something weird that hasn't happened
Mhm.
yet, but yeah.
Okay. And then the first Friday posts, are you gonna do that every month?
Yeah, I can do that every month.
Yeah.
I'll put like a reminder
Okay.
on my calendar for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I
So,
sent, you got the graphics. I think we have one for 10 months or something.
oh, do you want, I thought there was gonna be a different graphic each time.
Yeah, I think I sent
Okay.
you. There's like 10. So it'll last
Okay.
till October
I
or
did
something.
post for this last month, right?
Okay.
I scheduled it, I think, so that's why I'm.
I
having a
don't
hard
think I
time
saw the
remembering.
one for January, but I think
Oh, okay.
December went out.
Oh, okay.
But just, again, just,
Mhm.
I didn't know if you were waiting for me to,
No,
just timing. Okay. Cool. And then what about grants, posting about grants? Is that something we can post on Instagram? Or is it,
it would be tricky on Instagram because, I mean, we can just make a visual, that part's not a problem, but
Yeah.
you can't click on links on Instagram, right? So it'd be kind of tricky in terms of actually people having access to the information.
Mhm.
They would have to somehow copy and paste the link and look at it. And I don't know how it looks on the phone,
Mhm.
right? And it's the same as a
Mhm.
desktop and those kinds of things. So I
Yeah.
think that'd be kind of tricky in terms of accessing the information. It's not as simple as Facebook where you could just click on the link.
Yeah.
But yeah, also because there are just so many requirements that the email is easier to list all of that out. I
Mhm.
wouldn't, that's kind of clunky or weird for
Mhm.
social media post.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we might receive all these proposals for folks, kind of like Bennett is saying, that maybe don't actually meet the requirements. So
Well,
I
which is,
think
yeah.
that direct emails make more sense.
Okay.
Bennett's got her hand up.
Bennett?
So, I'm not sure, Mara, you said something earlier in the meeting about how we couldn't promote individual businesses. Could you go over that?
Right. So the things about like events, kind of what Lonzo was explaining is kind of like an event, right? That is happening. But in terms of specific sales going on for specific businesses, that's kind of where we have to be careful. Because again, that's like marketing. And essentially it's a government entity marketing for businesses. So that's where it gets weird. And that's the difficult part too, right? Of our Main Street program being a commission of the city rather than a nonprofit organization like the Chamber of Commerce, who, should be promoting their businesses.
Well, then, if there are rules around this, I think we should be letting the businesses know. Because if I were submitting things and I were taking the time to make a graphic or whatever,
Mhm.
and then you said, you know what, that doesn't fit. And I don't know what the parameters are. And so I keep working blindly, trying to submit something. And I don't see that as being a fair use of our businesses' times. So go
Folks
ahead.
don't submit anything unless I ask, like, unless we send out a request anyways, and they weren't submitting sales type things until we asked specifically for that. So I don't think that is really an issue. Because again, they really submit when we are requesting it of them and we can tell them what the guidelines are. So before we actually requested that specifically of them around the holidays, they weren't sending those kinds of things to us.
Again, they don't really know what the parameters are. So just because they weren't doing it doesn't mean that at some point, if we're constantly out there saying, hey, submit stuff to us about what's going on in your business, what's events that you have going on, that kind of thing, which if I don't see the difference between an event and a sale. But if we're asking them to make submissions, we should tell them what the guidelines are.
Yeah, so we had this discussion. We did put guidelines in like the newsletter request email that goes out every month. It's a template and there are specific guidelines. So, and then we asked the subcommittee to make guidelines, at least around social media. I haven't received any guidelines. I don't think the commission has looked at any either. So that's for
Okay.
you all to decide as well. Now I've shared, from the city standpoint, because at first we weren't really hearing about that, but again, we finally sat down and discussed and realized, yeah, we need to be careful about these things. But outside of that, it's up for you all to come up with specific guidelines as well. And then that is what I'll just continue to send out. So they were receiving specific guidelines before.
Just so that I'm trying to understand what you really want is just not the same business being promoted over and over and over again for the sales and stuff, because then it looks like the city is just promoting this one business for the sales. Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, that could potentially be an issue, right? We do often hear from a lot of the same people rather
Mhm.
than a more diverse group of our businesses. So that can be an issue. Yes, it does look like preference. Again,
Mhm.
reality is it's what people send us, but
Mhm.
yes, we have to be careful about that as a government entity.
Okay.
And I mean, this is coming from when I started, I wrote about your favorite food carts and was told, let's not talk like that because, and I didn't think anything of it, right? I wasn't trying to say that some were better than others in the city.
Mhm.
So yeah, we really do have to be very careful around our language and how it appears.
So to go back to, Mara, what you said about our subcommittee coming up with guidelines. Can you just,
Well, that was a
Kinda-
discussion at one of your meetings when you had created the subcommittee as
Mhm.
well. And we're talking, I think Bennett, that was like one of the first things she said, can you come up with guidelines for our social media? And then that is what we were going to share whenever we request content from businesses.
okay,
So
so I guess, because we had a meeting,
We
one
did.
meeting or two meetings,
Yeah.
of kind of going over various types of things. And maybe we can get together again. But I guess, can we get some examples or ideas about guidelines? I mean, what,
Please
just
don't use curse
who-
words.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
well,
There's
who
basic
we want-
things.
Who we want to post about, or what we, I mean, I think we have an idea of what we can and should post.
Mhm.
But I guess guidelines, what do you mean by guidelines? You, yeah,
Like, do we want a certain amount of words? Like you can only use so many words, like,
I don't think we have to be
Twitter
too picky
or-
about that. I mean,
right.
in general, we know on social media, you probably shouldn't be using a whole lot of words, but
yes.
yeah, we don't have to be picky about those kinds of things, but content in general. So like Lonzo was saying, some of it might be totally common sense that you
Mhm.
wouldn't use certain language. But yeah, being respectful. The idea around the sales, maybe we're not going to promote exactly specifically monetary type things and talk about that, but definitely we're okay with events.
Because I wasn't aware that we weren't gonna do
Yeah,
sales.
and
'Cause
again, that was
didn't we do
something-
Sales though?
We
Like you
weren't
guys
doing
did a
that
15%
before.
off or something, Julie, or didn't you guys? Which is
That
great.
was- Yeah,
but-
but I didn't know if that was any different because it was like the holiday.
Yeah, so this was the first
Okay.
time. Before we weren't doing that. We weren't asking for that kind of information. We
Okay.
actually specifically, we being Elena and I, who created the template for what goes out for the newsletter requests, we weren't, we said specifically that we're not going to promote sales, but we
Got it.
gave
So it says
a
that
list
in
of
the
other
email?
examples. Mhm.
Okay.
We're an
Um,
economic development group. We're not, this is not a format for, there's a blood drive going on. This is very, very specific about revitalizing and strengthening our downtown, business core. And so things like sales, that's why, when we clarified that, yeah, we want businesses to talk about what they've got going on or what they have available or sales that they have or events that they have. And so if they can't put that in there, I'm not exactly sure what we're doing.
I think there's a lot more to economic development than that, but I'd like to talk more about
Of
this
course
and
there
have
is.
Melanie at our meeting to discuss this as well. Like I said, unfortunately, Melanie left and she was actually the one who's going to talk more about this with you all. But yeah, I would like to have her share more as the city manager and where what
That sounds
the sta-
great.
City stance is.
I
on
just don't
this.
want a business to spend time doing some kind of putting together information or material for a sale that they've got going on and then have the city say, oh, we don't do sales. That's all I care about. And so maybe what you ought to do is maybe Melanie should come to the meeting. I don't know, we can postpone this to later. And then have the city tell us what your parameters are. And then our committee can build off of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess with that being said, you guys obviously have the last say. Is there a way can we have our own opinion? I mean, what do you guys, can we have an opinion and like change that? Or is that just like that's just a no.
Well, we
or-
are going to have to see specifically as a city what we can do. So again, it's difficult because this is a commission of
Yep.
the city, you represent
Sure.
the city. So it's not like other Oregon Main Street programs that are nonprofits.
Mhm.
So yes, we will need to talk and share what our policies are legally,
Mhm.
right? So that can't be changed.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't give your feedback in general about the
Sure.
kind of guidelines you'd like
Okay.
to have.
Because do you have any input, Lonzo? No. All right. What about you, Julie? No.
I mean, obviously, we have to help. I guess I do have input. Obviously, we have to help these businesses get the word out for their sales so that they can, that they can make money, and they might not be able to do their own media stuff. And so this is the way that we can get them, people into their stores.
Mhm.
So, and I think that you said earlier that now we are doing sales, and that's not an issue.
Well, that was starting to come up for the holidays. And then
Mhm.
we realized sitting down that maybe we can't really do that as a city since we are a government agency.
Okay.
However,
So is that in guidelines in some
yeah, that'd
packet
be like,
written to government, or is it just, or is it?
right, that wouldn't be like
your own-
Estacada specific necessarily. So we would need to look more into that, probably
Okay.
talk to our city attorney about that as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, and there's something else you mentioned. And also the DEC should be working with other local agencies. This, you're not isolated from everyone else in Estacada.
Mhm.
There's the Chamber of Commerce and they
Mhm.
should
Yes.
be doing that work. So if you all want to support that, you are more than welcome. They are a partner of the city.
Mhm.
So you're more than welcome to work with our chambers and trying to promote that as well.
Okay.
All right. So we'll, I guess, postpone our talk about more details about that is, and you said Melanie will be able to be at our meeting next month, or just.
Well, I can't guarantee if she'd be at the meeting, but hopefully she can
Have
be the
s- or
one to
just have some
share. I will
input.
talk with her about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, Connie.
Are we on number 8? Or are we done with that?
We're on social media right now, but we're moving on to e-newsletter.
I just have a
Um,
recommendation, since it's already after 10. When we get down to 9 and 10, do you think we can postpone them until next month and focus? Because I think those will be lengthy discussions, won't they?
Yeah, probably talking about subcommittees for Oktoberfests.
Well,
And-
mainly 9 and 10. I mean, discussing the work plan and the budget and the goals.
Oh, yeah.
If, it's already after 10 o'clock,
Mhm.
if we can make that a focus on the February meeting,
Okay.
just a thought.
I think
And
we
I-
need to make a decision today regarding the Oktoberfest.
Yeah, that's,
Mhm.
I
Okay.
have something to
Okay.
present, so that's,
Okay.
yeah, I'd like to get to that if we can.
Okay.
But go ahead with number 8. I just want to,
Yep. I
See if
think,
we
Bennett,
can-
do you have anything about an e-newsletter? Is it kind of just piggybacking off newspaper and we'll just,
We'll
Move forward with that.
we'll piggyback off of the newspaper
okay.
and any the social media posts that Mara receives.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a specific request for the newsletter. You can let me know if we want to extend that to also be social media. So it'd be the same or similar content in both places. But if
Okay.
you're okay, I can send that request out today or tomorrow. But we want to make sure, since it's beginning of the month, that we
Yeah.
get that out.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Okay, so Connie, did you want to talk
I-
about Oktoberfest and?
well, no,
Or-
well, I mean, to stay with the agenda, can we postpone talking about number 9 and number 10 till February? Because those are probably going to take some time. Am I,
Well, and your Oktoberfest is kind of, I mean, it's
If-
one of the goals,
Yeah,
right, of
one of the
22 to
goals.
23. So
Yeah.
it still fits. within
okay,
that
Yep.
item.
you want me to do that?
That's
now?
kind of, yeah, what else are you thinking? Are we 2022, 23 goals? Or is that Oktoberfest, July 4th,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we have any, I think we had some other goals.
Mhm.
But those are,
So it's maybe more.
more
number
in-depth
10 that is really
discussion.
being postponed. Is
Yeah,
it?
I think so. The
I
work
think
plan
the
and budget.
only other one that was like hot was the door hangers.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay, so do you want me to talk?
yeah, go for it. It's all
Send it.
you.
Okay, Oktoberfest. Bennett, I didn't know you weren't going to be here, but I gave, I have a document that I came up with my notes from the discussion with Marlene at Mount Angel. And then I also did a real quick timeline of what we need to be doing. And I don't know, I sent that tomorrow. I didn't know what my constraints are. We're sending it out to the whole board or not, so.
So yeah, sorry, Bennett, I didn't know you were going to be joining virtually, but I can forward the email with these attachments to you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so the discussion with Marlene at Mount Angel was very productive. Talked about how they did vendors, organization structure, admission, and food. But I did come up with a kind of a brief outline of a time frame. And I think the big thing right now is committees. I just figured we need a vendor committee, sponsorship, publicity, volunteer, infrastructure, entertainment, and then the beer and wine. And I guess what I just want to ask of the board is, this is going to take more than what the board can handle. So as you look at the committees I'm recommending, if you could outreach to people, specifically face-to-face, one-on-one, people that will carry forward and come through and be willing to work on this. I don't want to do a broad outreach publicly yet for volunteers because I want to really get subcommittee chairs in place. And I think we can, I don't want to say we want to interview people, but I just want people to know who's going to be the subcommittee chairs, because I want people that are going to be responsible and follow through. So Mara can either send this stuff out to you or I can. It's up to you, Mara. What I sent you.
Yeah, I can send that.
Okay.
I mean, I printed for all who are here, but Shane is
Shane,
not
yeah.
here and Bennett. So I can just email to the whole commission,
Yeah.
these documents.
So that's kind of starting the ball rolling now. Mount Angel is going to do theirs on September 14th through the 17th. They do 4 days. We're not doing that. So I'm suggesting September 23rd. That's the week after. I think that will still be safe as we can guarantee for Oregon, I don't know. So does September 23rd look possible for folks? Okay, so can we just start the ball rolling then?
Make a date.
September 23rd. They do theirs from 11 and then they end at 11 o'clock at night, but they cut off the food at 10 o'clock. That's a long time for us, so we'll have to
Long day.
discuss that, but I think starting at 11 is a fairly good time. So,
Connie, I believe there's probably some other events in Estacada on that weekend, but I don't see that as being anything that would stop. But I think it's likely that Best Damn Run is on that weekend.
okay, good point. Yeah, we were gonna look at that too. Okay.
Could that be a good thing though, or no?
It could be, yeah.
Could
I don't think
combine
it's,
them?
and it's on the opposite side of town. So,
Because,
Perfect.
I
but
mean,
you know
they
what?
get to run and.
It was a bit of a conflict this last year for Harvest Festival
Yeah.
because they were on the same day.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And
Just for
it blocked off
parking, or-
streets and blocked off parking.
Okay.
But
and-
they're usually, I think, aren't they usually done by like 11 because they start early? Anyway, it's something I'll look into.
Noon is
Noon?
when they.
Okay, I'll definitely look
Yeah,
into
so
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Then after they're done running like crazy people, then they're gonna be hungry.
Yeah, that is one thing this last
It
time. We didn't
did.
have the food vendors so much. So hopefully that's an
Yeah.
incentive to get
Yeah.
people to
Oh, for sure.
participate.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we would need to do is really work closely with their organizers.
Yeah, we
If we do
we
that.
did, but we will again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
partner with them
good.
and
Thanks,
discuss
Bennett.
this.
So that's just getting the ball rolling. So look at the committees that I'm recommending. And just kind of just reach out to people that would be good.
My group of 6 people can definitely help with the beer
Oh, yeah.
and wine garden committee and the volunteer committee,
Okay.
for sure.
I'll try and come up with some duties for each committee. based on some other stuff that's been happening years ago, so. That's all I had for Oktoberfest,
Okay, so
just the start.
It looks like the best damn run is. It says October 23rd. Or I'm sorry, September 23rd,
September what?
23rd
Okay,
of this year, but
okay.
yeah, don't.
And then I do have some vendors that want to do
Okay.
Oktoberfest here. Do I give you the list of vendors?
Let's hang on until I get a vendor chair
Okay.
and then we'll take it from there.
And I have a music
Yeah.
bookie that has 4 bands that.
Okay.
want to come to.
Same,
Yeah, so it's just. something-
Entertainment, yeah.
Just wait.
hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And you postpone this conversation, but obviously this will all have to be proposed for approval as well with all the details of the budget and everything you're discussing.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to come up with a budget. So just starting to get the feelers out there. Any questions?
Do we want to make a subcommittee for this? Or are
Well,
you
I
just kind
kinda
of
think,
asking for us to kind
uh,
of just get the community right now to, well, not, or just
I think when
committed
you,
people.
when you see what what I've proposed, when you get that document, just again, you guys have customers, people in the community. And again, I would just stress to them that this is a 1-day event.
Mhm.
If you could just take on this job, it might involve more hours than just what the day is, but
Mhm.
just want to get some good people involved in this. Responsible people.
For the vendors, it says that they don't charge, but they give a percentage. Did they say what percentage?
No, I need to
Mm.
call her back and find out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mount Angel does not charge their vendors to be there. They just get a percentage of their gross.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then all their food vendors were nonprofits, which I thought was interesting. So, we might be able to go that route too. There's a lot of nonprofits in Estacada.
Mhm.
So. Okay. Anything more about Oktoberfest? Nope.
No, we can add since we're pushing off the budget, we can maybe, that's gonna be part of it.
Yeah.
Well, next month.
I would like us to entertain the idea of having a motion to move forward with Oktoberfest. And I understand that we need to budget approved and all the rest of it, but at this point, all we've done is say, yeah, we're thinking about it. Let's examine the idea. But at some point, we just need to say, yeah, we're gonna do it. And
Pull
then
the trigger.
start
Mhm.
doing the work. What do you guys think about that?
I'm fine with doing that because I want a yes or a no before I put more into
Yeah, let's
this.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I make a motion that we go with September 23rd, 2023 for the Estacada Oktoberfest?
I second that.
All in favor? Am I
Aye.
supposed to be doing that? Or are you supposed to be doing it?
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. All right. Motion is passed.
Thank you, Bennett.
Okay.
Okay, door hangers, real quick.
Yep.
I got with Marissa Nelder, who did the previous one, and this is it, 2019 is
Cool.
when the downtown Estacada did one. And on the front, it has our mission, and then on the back, it had upcoming 2019 events. I think this can be expanded on, especially on the front, talking about our mission and what we want to see in Estacada. Marissa had a major computer crash. She doesn't know if she can do this anymore, this particular program, so we might need to be looking for somebody else that can print and do these. She always gave us a really good price and she developed the graphics, but anyway, this is it. And
And
Bennett,
the door hangers, we're doing one, printing one. and
Right.
And doing it, putting them out,
Yep, yep,
one day.
yep.
Um,
Well, it doesn't have to be one day because I was,
Or it's gonna
you
take,
know,
maybe it'll take a couple.
yeah,
days,
we
but
can-
one
one
fell
push.
swoop of
Yeah.
door hangers. And I forgot, did we come up with a time frame we're doing
I
this
think
spring?
March and April, we wanted to have them out by
Okay.
end of April.
You have your goals printed
Yeah,
out too
okay.
in front
Yeah,
of you,
that's
so that will say the timeline.
But I was talking with another group about something. And not only putting these on doors, but in businesses, set up, be in front of Ace Hardware and just hand them out. They had, one day I counted and they had 93 people come through their door in 1 hour.
Wow.
So, that and Harvest Market and the liquor store, it really is easy to distribute these. It
Mhm.
really doesn't take a lot of time.
Especially if it's about our own city, people.
Hmm?
Especially if
So-
it's about here.
Yeah.
They want to know.
When we first
Oh.
started talking about this, I had this kind of vision of like plastic bags with stuff in them. So if you're gonna go this route, then I think what we ought to do is print a bunch of them and do what you said, Connie, hand them out at different places along with the door hanger idea. But let's just use that as our newspaper insert. I bet they'll
Oh.
put it in the newspaper.
Yeah,
And yeah, and then we don't
Mhm.
have to print anything else. We can just print that.
okay,
That's a good idea.
okay. And I
Under
kind
the
of fell
cost.
through on this. I was going to talk to the chamber about their welcome packets. I didn't. I will. So
Awesome.
I can come up with a mock version for the next meeting. And even if we don't have firm dates for, events, on this last one, we did First Friday, Farmers Market, concert in the park. This was besides the DEC events, it was community events.
Mm.
So any thoughts? And if you know of anybody that does graphics, that, because I don't think Marissa's going to put the money into getting her computer upgraded.
Mm. Well, I'd love to be involved. I'm,
Okay, thank you.
and help with that for sure.
Okay.
And we can put, are we trying to do just community event, or I'm sorry, just DEC events, do you think, or is that just a discussion for once we finalize? Does it matter?
I don't know.
Just up to
I
us?
mean, I'm for, I think the more people know about what's going on in town, it's going to benefit everybody.
I agree.
So not just
Not just us.
DEC events, if
Yeah.
there's room to put other events,
Mhm.
I think we should.
Yeah.
It's
I
my
agree.
opinion.
Mhm.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
So we will be postponing work plan and budget for next month. We don't need to make a motion or anything for that, or do we? just-
Right, and it wasn't that you had to come up with either of those things, because
Mhm.
yes, that would take some
Yeah.
time, but at least thinking
Discussion.
about this, so you know that, it's gonna be due, it's coming up here.
Mhm.
I can send out a timeline. I did for Hannah and Bennett, but I'm not sure if I sent it to the whole commission, but just your timeline of when things need to be done to be presented to council for approval.
Mhm.
So if that, you can even do that within a subcommittee as well, to work
Mhm.
on those things, like your budget, and then present that at a meeting too for approval.
Okay.
For you all too.
Sure.
Yeah, approve that.
Okay. All right. Well, any comments? Bennett, are you good? Do you have any
Yeah, I
last
have
words?
one last thing that I want to talk about before we adjourn, so.
Okay.
It had circled back to something. Can I do it now or should I wait?
No, go for it. We're
Okay.
all
It
done.
has to do with something that we brought up earlier in the meeting, which was the vacancy. And I personally, well, first I have a question for Mara. Mara, those two applicants, what I understood was they didn't live within the city limits or something like that, within the area that they had to live in.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, city council changed the code last month. So
Oh,
staff
I
had
see. That's
suggested
what-
that it would be changed so that people who own businesses within the city are still able to serve
it.
on the commission, even if they don't live here
Okay.
or within the school district.
Okay, I didn't know what the change was. Okay, so so that made them, I still believe that we should open this up to the public rather than just taking anybody who's on a list, because new people could be in town or all kinds of things. So I think that we should open it up again.
Julie Colton also wants to apply, and I think that should be a great addition.
Yeah, I know some people who would
That's
like to
good.
apply to, but
Excellent.
There's a certain amount of time we have to keep the application open. So
Mhm.
part of it was also making sure that council could actually look at it too. This month would have been nice for them to choose, but you know, applications are open in general. Some of you here too might want to reapply for your spots as well. So
Well, I'd rather have have the opportunity to look at a number of candidates and decide who is going to be the best contributor, rather than just saying, you know what, we're just going to go with who we have in the basket.
I agree.
I agree.
Mhm. Great.
So is that, do we have to make a motion for that, Mara, or is that jumping there? It's open. Is it open right now?
no,
we have-
I don't think it's been open yet. I mean, we only
Okay.
got the word from Chris last week.
Got it. Okay.
So not even a week ago.
Okay. So what do we have to do anything moving forward, or is that just, are you gonna make an email of, we have a vacancy, or?
I can just let Sadie know whether
Okay.
that you want to have it open.
Okay.
I have reached out to the past applicants too, though, to let them know, obviously, that the
Mhm.
code did change and they're now qualified. So
Okay.
it's only fair.
Good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And would we have to re-interview with them? Or I don't think, just
I mean,
knowing they're
that's up
still in
to
the
you.
part, and then, okay.
So one thing on that is that Lonzo wasn't able to interview them. He hasn't met them.
Mhm.
So I would think that we would need to have everybody interview again.
It's gonna
Okay.
be-
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be reopening for applications and then re-interviewing. And is that something that could, how does the deadline work? Is that something we can have by our meeting next month?
I believe, yeah, I'd be ready. I will double check with Sadie on what the
Yeah.
exact
It's about a month
timeline
out.
is for how long we have to have it open.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, there are quite a few applicants for the planning commission
Mm,
opening as well. And so now that there's another opening for them, they're going with the applicants that they had because there were so many.
Call
So
you back in a minute.
Okay.
that's why it was a suggestion as well, not for any,
Sure.
particular reason.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that being said, I think we're all good.
Good.
Meeting adjourned at 10:36 a.m.
Thank you all.
Thank you
We
all.
didn't ask for second public
Oh,
comment.
sorry. Public comment?
There's nobody here at City Hall or on Zoom.
All right.
Any commissioner comments?
Nope. All right.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. 10:36 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Bennett.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.